Hi, Mrs. Aguilar. As I'm sure you know from my previous phone call, my name is Anthony Quintana and it is very nice to meet you. Thank you so much for allowing me to interview you. I really appreciate it and I will try to be as concise as possible because I do not want to take up too much of your time since I am sure you are very busy.
Hi, Anthony. It is very nice to meet you as well. I cleared my schedule for this interview because I wanted to make sure you are as comfortable as possible needs since I know this is a very important assignment. So, you do not have to worry about rushing on my account.
Thank you so much for that. So I have got a total of 13 questions for you today. Shall we get started with them now?
Yes, of course.
My first question is very simple, but something that I am always interested in knowing about anybody I meet, which is what drove them to their current positions. So, Mrs. Aguilar, what made you choose HR for your career?
This is a funny story. I had no intention of focusing on human resources when I was younger. I had really wanted to become an accountant all my life because when I was little, I loved going to the bank with my mom because the bank tellers were always so nice and helpful to both my mom and me. However, when I got to college and started taking accounting courses, I was met with the harsh reality that bank tellers and accountants are completely different professions and that accounting was not for me because it dealt with much more than just mathematics. That's when I went to my college advisor, and she talked me through my next options and enlightened me on careers that are like bank tellers, where you can make a difference in people's daily lives and earn a great living. This is when I learned about human resources, and it was like a match made in heaven. I loved how your main objective was to solve problems, coordinating plans, and directing. The more I learned about, the more it intrigued me, and this was around my sophomore year of college.
Wow, that is so fascinating how every person's journey is so unique. Speaking of college, this takes me to my next question. Which college did you attend and what did you major in?
Well, just like you, I am a Sun Devil. I am proud Arizona State University graduation from 2007.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I have a sister who graduated the same year as you. I must have seen you up on the stage since my whole family was there for her graduation.
That's crazy how small the world is. Also, to answer the second part, I majored in business with a concentration in human resources. And as I mentioned, this was after already switching my major 2 times. So, this goes to show you that it's completely fine to not know exactly what to do after high school because that is an immense amount of pressure to put on someone who is still just a child.
I could not agree more. Do you have any classes that you recommend for someone interested in human resources to take?
Yes, I do. I remember a few classes that truly helped me grasp what having a career in human resources truly means and prepared me to take on anything. The first one would be statistics. I'm not going to lie and say it was easy, because it was very difficult in fact, but it really showed me how to analyze and present data, which is such an important task as an HR manager, because you need to know how your workforce is doing currently and how it will be in the future. Another one I think is important is project management because it shows you how to successfully work within a team and about communication skills. Lastly, I believe taking a public speaking class is very beneficial since you will be leading a lot of meetings and presentations. These types of classes will provide you with all the necessary tools you'll need to coordinate a successful meeting or presentation every time. Also, it serves as great practice because you must speak in front of your classmates many times throughout the course.
This is so useful and eye-opening because I would never think HR requires so many meetings, but it does make sense. Speaking of HR manager roles, what does your daily work schedule consist of?
Oh, my goodness, it truly depends on the day, because there are no set daily tasks. One day, I will have to conduct interviews to fill a vacant position, and that takes up most of that day. Then I'll have another day, where it only consists of meetings either with executives or employees, where we deal with all kinds of different situations like interpersonal ones, budgeting, and even more difficult ones, like layoffs. However, This is what I love about being an HR manager because I get to utilize my many different skills each day. Since there is always something new to solve or help with, as an HR manager, you will never get bored.
I can tell how much you truly love your career. I cannot wait to get started next year.
That makes me happy. I'm truly so excited for your career journey to begin.
Thank you. Now that we talked about your current position, I'm wondering what the process was like to achieve being an HR manager, since I'm guessing you did not land this position straight out of college.
Yes, you would be right. I had to work hard to prove myself, and after many years, I was able to land this position that I am eternally grateful for. But I know I deserve for all the tears and sweat I put in. I started out as an HR coordinator, like most of us do. I worked for a company called Arizona Nutritional Supplements, and I stayed there for a very long time. As an HR coordinator, I would do basic tasks like reviewing applications, posting job listings, and processing employee paperwork. So, we call HR more of a blanket term because within HR there are disciplines that you can specialize like benefits, recruitment, compensation, and much more. As you can tell, I was dealing more with recruitment and I still do to this day, but with a mixture of all. After 3 years of working in an entry-level position, I was noticed by my boss because I was always respectful and kept to myself. He really appreciated that, because they kept having trouble keeping an HR manager because they always turned out to be unprofessional, unorganized, and generally not good at their job. He called me into his office one day and asked me if I was interested in applying for the job. I immediately said yes, and the rest is history. I became an HR manager for ANS. Then after a couple of years there I left and landed a job here.
It seems like you really paid your dues. I really respect that. Speaking of landing your dream role, are you content with it, or are there other career goals you are still aspiring to accomplish?
I can honestly say that I am fully content with this position. Of course, I would love to one day have my own construction business with my partner, but that is more of a dream than a goal. Because I would love for that to happen one day, but if it does not, then I would not be any less happy. I think almost everybody has that dream though, to not have to work for a corporation or for anybody else.
Yes, I completely understand you. I would like the same thing. What would you say is the most challenging part of the job?
The worst part of the job would have to be letting people go. No matter how many times you do it, it is always just as hard. Over the years, you hope that it gets easier. However, I learned to embrace it. Because it's not human-like to not care about taking away someone's way of making a living. That's the one thing I will always warn people about before they pursue a career in human resources. I always them to be prepared to constantly deliver bad news and be hated by some people, so you must have thick skin to make it. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to be as honest as possible. I remember the first time I had to let someone go. I started crying right after they left. So, I learned along the way that nobody is perfect.
Thank you for your honesty. I will cherish this advice. What would be the most enjoyable part of the job?
There are honestly such good things about being an HR manager. It's choosing the best one. I would say the best aspect of the job would be why I started pursuing it in the first place, which is being able to make a difference in people's lives every day. I get to help the company with its finances. I get to help employees with any issues they might be facing. And I get to create a safe space for anybody who works at the company to be heard. I get to leave work and feel accomplished every day, which is amazing.
That sounds like the dream. As an HR manager, you must take charge of a variety of situations most of the time, making you a leader. Therefore, is leadership something that came naturally to you, or was that a skill you had to work on?
That's a good question. Leadership is something that has never come naturally to me. In fact, I still have those feelings of imposter syndrome, because I feel like there are better suited people for the job. However, I've come to realize that that is just my anxiety thinking that because I have worked so hard on my leadership skills ever since I was in college. As I mentioned, I forced myself to take public speaking classes and I was petrified every day of going. But I thank God that I did because I really accredit that to breaking me out of my shell. After that, I joined clubs and put myself out there more. I made a fool of myself many times, but I feel like that is what makes a leader great. Being able to be knocked down, but not letting that define you and pushing through. It's an ongoing struggle, but I promise the hardest part is making that first step, and once you do, you won't regret.
Wow, leadership has never come easily to me either, so it's inspiring seeing you in such a high position with the same struggle. I see you mentioned conducting a lot of meetings. What would you say is the secret to presenting successful, effective meetings?
Okay, for an effective and successful meeting, you must make sure you make an agenda with your intended goals for each one. It's important to always go into any meeting with a detailed plan, because people get so easily sidetracked, especially the bigger the meeting is. Other than having an agenda, make sure to always encourage participation from the attendees. Because meetings are much less effective if only one person is speaking to people, there needs to be interaction. Lastly, I would say to hone your communication skills because people analyze everything, not just words that are spoken. For instance, is everybody being treated with equal respect? There is nonverbal communication and the level of friendliness. This is just what works for me. Everybody is different when conducting meetings. But I think almost anyone can benefit from these tips.
I agree. They sound extremely helpful. My next question is, what do you think the future career outlook is for human resources?
I can honestly say that the career outlook is bright for this career path because HR representatives will always be needed. Businesses cannot truly function without an HR manager, so this career is not going anywhere anytime soon or ever.
That sounds great and very optimistic. What is something people would find surprising about HR managers?
Something surprising is that a lot of it is truly just common sense. People make it seem more complicated than it really is, but it is something that you learn along the way. Also, we're all not lifeless inside, like The Office makes it seem like. We get a bad rep, but we just want to help facilitate helpful conversations and do what is best for everybody involved. Lastly, this pertains more to careers in general, but if you ever wonder why these higher positions are so hard to come by is because careers are all about connections. It sadly does not matter if you are more qualified than anybody up for the job. If you have a connection to the employer, you are much more likely to receive the job. So just keep that in mind next time you feel discouraged, because I had to learn that the hard way. I would suggest going to as many career fairs as possible and summits and just start putting yourself out.
I know, I felt so bad for HR reps after seeing how badly Toby was treated in the office. Now to a more serious question. Since you are Hispanic, did you face any discrimination for your race or sex when you were just getting started? Also, if so, do you think discrimination is going down or up?
Thank you for asking this question. Yes, like you mentioned, not only am I Hispanic, but also a woman. So, when I landed the HR manager job at ANS, I noticed things starting to shift, and not for the better. There were a lot of employees who were men who did not feel comfortable having a woman as someone in a higher position, so I got constantly disrespected and learned that they were saying slurs behind my back. This led to conducting a meeting reminding employees about our policies, especially about bullying, and I had to let go of a lot of people who couldn't get past their egos. I was very disappointed that I had to go through this, but I am grateful because it showed me that I have the strength to stand up for myself. I think the discrimination against race and sex for people in higher positions is starting to go down, but of course, there is a lot more work left.
I'm so sorry you had to go through all that. Thank you so much for sharing. This is the last question of our interview, and it is a light and positive one. What is the best advice you have ever received?
Thank you for not ending it on such a downer. I have been given such good advice from so many people, but the one that sticks out the most to me is when my younger brother found out about me feeling anxious about leaving college. I was so nervous about how I was going to land a job because I failed to make connections in college. He told me that there was nothing to worry about not making connections because there are so few people with pure and kind intentions that employers will instantly recognize that about me, and I will get far in this world because of it. He was not wrong, because my kindness and wholeheartedness got me here. So, if you take one thing from this interview, let it be this. Always lead with your heart and be empathetic, because there aren't enough leaders in the world to do that.
Thank you so much. I will cherish this interview forever. I cannot tell you how incredibly appreciative I am that you took the time to do this, and I hope our paths cross again in the future.
The pleasure is all mine. I hope our paths cross again as well. It was lovely talking to you, and good luck with your school and career. Bye.